If you live the off-grid, self-sufficient kind of lifestyle, often you'll find yourself having to fix things yourself. Part of the reason I do it is that it's just so expensive to pay somebody else to repair things. This is my car. The electronic handbrake has broken on it, so the main dealer has quoted £700 to replace the unit and code it back into the car. I've managed to buy the part off eBay, which I think will fix it, and at the end of this video I'll see whether it's actually been worth my while doing it myself. That's the part there, that black box is the electronic handbrake. If you've not seen an electronic handbrake on a car before, basically it automatically puts it on and releases it when you stop and start the car. I don't see any advantages over a manual handbrake, but they've put them on these Renault Scenics because I think it saves a bit of space in the cockpit between the driver's seat and the passenger seat. And I have to take that off, open it up to see what's going on inside. So just a bit of safety first. I've parked the car slightly downhill so that if I'm working on it under here and for some reason the gear gives way or something, the car's going to roll away from me instead of rolling over the top of me. And I've just stuck some chocks under the front wheels just to be safe. Get the old box off. And I need to unclip the electrical connector, put that away somewhere safe. In this car you have to release the handbrake unit from bolts from inside the car, and it's pretty yucky in this car. That's the handbrake holder released. I need to get the box out of the holder now. So that's that off. That reveals the handbrake unit. So one of these cables runs off to the brake caliper on that wheel. One of them runs off to the brake caliper on that wheel. There's the emergency handbrake cable release goes here, and then we have the wires that come from the central control unit that do all the electronic stuff. Now what I'm going to try and do is replace the motor inside this unit and not remove all this stuff off here, because otherwise I have to release all this and that's going to take me a bit of time. I think I can get away with soldering on the new motor whilst I'm here nice and dry underneath the car. These screws look really rusty, so I'm just going to give them a bit of the old WD-40. So I was going to give them a bit of spray, but then found my WD-40 can has been punctured, so it won't work. So what I'm going to do is just basically screw and hope. Well, most of the bolts came out, but there's always one or two, and there's two here, and they're well stuck in, and the heads have burred off them. I'm not a professional mechanic. I did train as an electrician once, so my solution to most things is get the side cutters out. And that usually, you can usually grip the nuts or the screws and twist them out that way. So inside this unit is nicely sealed electronics. And luckily it's all dry, so the handbrake hasn't failed that way. So what I suspect is the problem is this motor is probably only good for around about 100,000 miles worth of driving, and I'm guessing when I take that out it's going to be all broken inside. If I replace that motor, keep all the electronics the same, that means this doesn't need to be recoded, rekeyed to the specific car, and hopefully it'll work once I seal it all back in. So there was me trying to be clever and keep the unit on and fix it in situ. Unfortunately I have to take this whole gearbox out to get the motor screwed into it. So I'm going to have to disconnect the brake cables, the handbrake cables. They're fairly easy to get out. I just sort of unhook them from this hook here. So that's the unit out. I've left the emergency release cable attached because I suspect once I try and get the other bit off, it's going to take me a whole lot of time. I think I'll just try and replace the motor here in the back of the car. But at least it's easier than doing it upside down. Also, I really don't think that if I brought this into the kitchen table, it's going to be appreciated. So what I'm going to do is take this motor out. I've got myself a replacement one, and I hope that will fix the problem. I'm just going to desolder these wires using my very old-fashioned gas-powered soldering iron. Wires are off, time to try and get this bit out. Okay, let's look inside the gearbox. Feel a bit like a heart surgeon here. So we need to undo these screws and put the new motor in. I don't know how mechanics put up with it. I have to screw all of this off to remove that threaded rod so that I can get this off, so that I can get access to the screws inside the gearbox. Okay, inside the gearbox, what have we got? So I'll take this out and then try and get the new motor in. It's the old motor out. Here's that old motor. It does look a bit burnt out. Usually you can tell if they've gone. Giving them a bit of a shake, that's definitely been the problem. Still turns a bit though. Slide the new motor in, screw it into position. Check it sort of still runs and there's some grease in it. Screw this rod back in. My little soldering iron just doesn't seem to be powerful enough to heat up the metal bits on this motor to get a good solder, so I'm just going to crimp these wires together, and that should be good enough. They should never rattle out if they're properly crimped on. And this is probably why you shouldn't let electricians work on cars. Electrical tape everywhere, but that's it all connected back up. I'm going to screw it back in now and seal the top back on. But before I seal it back in, I'm just going to stick a bit of this mastic on the seal line, because this unit, the Renault engineers in their wisdom have placed it right on the underside of the car where it gets sort of maximum rain and puddle splash, so I don't want any water getting into it. Screw the lid down. Much easier doing it here up top than underneath the car. And now the fun part of putting it all back together again. Let's tighten up all the bolts inside. And the brake cables just to go back under these hoops. And I put these circlips back in here to secure them. I can probably get them in by hand. Maybe not. Get the pliers on. Okay, moment of truth. It's still showing the parking brake fault. Let's start her up. Switch that off. Okay, this is how you activate the handbrake. Oh, that sounded good. Look at that, fixed, brilliant. So that's the old part that came out that was broken. The new part's in now, all the handbrake is working, great stuff. It took me 2 hours of doing the work and about an hour doing internet research, trying to figure out exactly what was wrong. The garage quoted me £700. This part cost £35 for a replacement, so I see it as that I'm up £665. Divide that by 3 for 3 hours of work, so £220 an hour. That's a brilliant wage. There's no way on earth that I could ever earn that per hour, especially doing what I do. So a cost comparison analysis, it's much better if you're a low income person to do your own repair work than it is to get somebody else out to, if you can possibly do it. If I was a doctor or a solicitor or something, it probably would be better if I just carried on working and paid somebody else to do it.